you would describe him to like new viewers.
Sure. I'll go first. I play Agatha. She is a precognitive psychic, and in the film she was featured. And now it's 10 years later. It's 2065. She's grown up a little bit, but she's in complete seclusion as we start our series. She has decided that, you know, the society that took advantage of her, she wants to have no part of it. She basically had, you know, the most unusual sort of history from a very young age, being put into service to solve crimes and, you know, being haunted by these horrible visions. So she's decided that she wants no part of that, and she's arrived, you know, at this place where she's in complete isolation, but her brothers have gotten bored, or for whatever reason they've gone back to the city, Dash and Arthur, and she's very worried about them. And that may pull her back into the city, I don't know, but I have a feeling that she will get thrust back into society, and what that does to her is kind of an interesting question. Will she be, she's definitely not trusting of people, doesn't trust mankind as an entity, so will that make her more calculating? Will she be bitter about it? Where will it take her? Who knows? Or will she remain this sort of like Zen-like? We'll see.
And I play Lieutenant Will Blake. I am currently Laura Vega, Detective Laura Vegas' boss, played by Megan Good. Megan Vega and Will Blake may have had something in the past. May or may have not had something in the past. And now, a couple of years later, you know, we happen to now be assigned to the same precinct, and I get a promotion around the time when she felt like the promotion might have been hers, and that makes it for a little bit of a bittersweet, you know, relationship between us. She may not want to admit this, but them together are brilliant. They're almost a perfect cop together. They complement each other really well, and he is very by the book. He believes in the program, he believes in the system. You know, he believes that the law is there for a reason, and he does everything he does to actually continue to climb the ladder and be who he wants to be. He's also an ex-Marine, you know, so you'll see that eventually kind of purple somewhere in there, you know. But yeah, so that's who I play in the world, and exciting because Minority Report, the series, is it's an official sequel to the movie, and Steven Spielberg is, you know, hands-on executive producer. You know, he cast everyone. He's opened his archives of, you know, of not only props but wisdom when it came to the movie. You know, for us to actually not only base the DNA and the spirit of the movie, but also really evolve the technology that he established in the movie to 10 years later. You know, so you know, so that was a win.
So as far as the technology, we were talking to the producers, and they were saying things like you can't slide your hand against a wall unless you know what you're doing. So do you have like tech classes for futuristic tech?
Yeah. I mean, we have. It's really like going to dance class. You know what I mean? Like you go to this dance class and you go to this empty room, and then you imagine the board there. Then I think a lot of it is commands that make sense, right? Like for example, this. You open files, 2 fingers and pointing forward. Now at that point, this means you're highlighting that, you know, that file, enlarge the file. You know, there's all kinds of things that you have to do, but there is an actual language to it, and that's something that came from Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg's collaboration. He said that there needed to be a language, there needed to be a dance that went with it in order to trigger the computer to collaborate with the detective, and we're doing that, and we're actually doing all that kinds of training too. And Megan and I are also doing future police tactical training, which means that based on, you know, decades and decades and decades of wisdom that the police have gathered, you know, we're also now rehearsing and training a version of the police's methods that will probably be the evolved version of it based on certain mistakes the police probably made and certain evolution of theories, you know, that happen as well.
Yeah, I think the movements that you make have to look so natural and intuitive, and then it's funny to step in and have to learn it from your perspective, but it's like, has to be like watching a 2-year-old with an iPad, right? And they just know how to do it, and it all just makes sense. Right. Like you said, the movements make sense. So they're finding their way to that, which is really cool. My character doesn't get to play with that stuff as much yet, but we'll see.
Where do you expect the series to go as it goes down the line?
Everywhere.
Physically
I can see
everywhere.
it going 10 years into the future.
Yeah, tell us.
I mean, I think
she knows
yeah,
more than
I'm the one who knows where it goes. I better tell Max where it goes. I mean, I think, you know, there's so many relevant current issues to explore. Privacy, you know, crimes of the mind. Like, this is about maybe arresting people for things they haven't done yet, and you know, who hasn't had like a violent thought, but you don't necessarily act on it. That's a really interesting, topical, current issue. And there's so much to explore. Just the future tech that we were talking about was so elegantly done in the film, and actually turned out to be right in so many cases, that, you know, we're hoping to hit those marks as well.
Yeah, and one of the things I feel Steven Spielberg and Max and Kevin were really excited about is how do you recreate the procedural format, right? How do you do a procedure format that once has an arc, has some kind of conspiracy, you know, has a real direction of where it's going, but on every episode, how do you get that satisfaction and walking away saying, okay, we have a closed-end episode that still promised there was a bigger arc. And what they've done brilliantly is we're not going to be solving cases that you will see in crime today. We're going to be solving cases based on technology that doesn't exist, that most likely exists. Technology that will assist, you know, the crime world, you know, on a level that you can't even imagine. So that to me was really exciting, right? How do we crack a case that's never been done before? How do you crack a crime that you've never seen executed before? And how do you predict that? And I think that's what's going to be exciting, to see that on every episode. You're not going to ever be able to predict, you know, how this goes. And you know, leave it to Steven Spielberg to create a universe where everything is possible. You know, so you know, I think that's a world that we're excited to dive into, and you know, we just hope that the audience loves it as much as we're loving the process, and you know, they're not sparing any kind of technology to make this look, you know, not just like the movie, but an evolved version of the movie. And because of today, imagine the technology they used back then, and the technology we have now to actually create an interesting and more comprehensive narrative. You know, that's just insane to me, the technology that we have today to reinvent the wheel like he did once. And that's what Steven wants to do. He wants to kind of just, okay, what does it look like 10 years later in a society where technology evolves way faster, right? As we know, technology evolves, like every 2 years, I feel like technology jumps 10 years ahead, right? If you imagine in a future where technology is improving itself, you know, on an hourly basis, what is 10 years later, what's going to look like? What is, you know, from 2055 to, you know, 2065, what does that world look like, and what is like technology going to assist us to do? And Steven also created, you know, and I'm not allowed to say this too much because there's a lot of, you know, secret stuff that we're not allowed to disclaim yet, but Steven has created a new weapon that is going to assist the police in a very unique level. And the weapon is also was inspired by you know, actual, you know, social statements that happen today and social dilemmas that happen today. So I mean, it's very exciting. He's making a statement with everything from the technology to the characters, you know, to the spirit.
What are your favorite
Thank you guys very much. Sorry, we gotta break this. I'm sorry, we gotta move on.